what you just heard, then you should listen to today's topic. My attempt with these topics is to address some of the tricky concepts that we as guitar players come across very often. We try to hunt for answers and solutions in some of the beautiful books that have been written for the guitar. But sometimes, and somehow, these answers seem hard to come by. My motivation, hence, is to see if I can address some of these concerns. So let's visit today's topic, which is why knowing and playing chordal inversions is a good idea. The topic is chordal inversions, but the operative thing out here is knowing and playing. Not just knowing, mind you, but knowing and playing. I'm going to be discussing all three reasons, reason A, B and C. We'll start off with reason A, that says helps to express yourself all over the fretboard. Now there's one standard way of playing inversions, that is playing the root shape, then playing the first inversion, then the second inversion, cycling back to the root shape, first, second, and so on and so forth. We'll have a look at it with a practical example. I'm playing chord A at the root shape, 1, 3, 5. Notice that I'm also playing it in a particular group, which is, I'll call this group 4, which is strings 6, 5 and 4. Group 3 happens to be 5, 4 and 3, strings 5, 4 and 3. Similarly, group 2 is 4, 3 and 2, and group 1 is 3, 2 and 1. So I'll stick to showing these inversions and the chord shape and the root shape in group 4, that is strings 6, 5 and 4. So root shape, first inversion. So root shape is 1, 3, 5, first inversion is 3, 5, 1. Second inversion is 5, 1, 3. Going back, now it cycles back to the root shape, first inversion. Come back to the root shape, second inversion, first inversion, root shape. Now if I were to play this in a different group, which is group 3, let's say, I'd start off with the first inversion, chord A in the first inversion, so 3, 5, 1, second inversion, root shape, first inversion, root shape, come back to the first inversion, root shape, second inversion, first inversion, right? Now what I like to call this exercise is a very technical exercise. Now why did I say technical exercise? It's because this kind of an exercise, which moves so much across the fretboard, basically builds what is called as our memory map. Now what is our memory map is something that's getting used when we are visualizing the fretboard, the notes on the fretboard, the shape of the chords, the shape of the inversions. So the moment we try to bring our fingers to execute a particular chord shape, what gets recalled is our memory map. And how do we build it? By actually doing this kind of a technical exercise, where when we take a particular group and we move our chord shape, our inversion shapes all across that group, from one part of the fretboard to the other part, and keep cycling between it. And we do that for other groups also. But what I'd like to do instead is, not instead, but along with it probably, is that I'd like to make this a musical exercise, which has a musical quotient along with the technical quotient. Now how would I be doing that? I'd probably have to tie point A and point B. Now what does point B says? Point B says, lets you move between chords smoothly aka voice leading. Now this concept of voice leading is what I'm going to be tackling in depth in a different video, but I'm going to give a gist of this particular concept in this video too. So how am I going to be doing this? Now if I were to take some musical theory, right, and start applying it such that it becomes part of our musical repertoire, that would be something that would be very advantageous as a musician, or even as someone who wants to understand music, right? Instead of just practicing something technically which doesn't lay any foundation from a musical point of view. So let me draw an analogy. Now if I were to read how to make paper planes and do nothing about it thereafter, as opposed to reading about making paper planes and then start making many such paper planes, the rich practical experience that I would gain out of that would help me, would teach me so much about it, and probably teach me so much that I would be able to teach others too. So that's the kind of exercise that I'm looking to get at. Now what I do is, because we're going to take point C in part 2 of this video, I'll probably do away with it now. And of course point C is something that we really want to tackle, and that's the whole purpose of this video. But before that, what I do is I create a chord progression in the key of C. I'll move from chord D minor to G to C. And then I'll play it in the kind of way that I've been playing. And I want you to make note of certain things. Of course, I'm going to be touching upon that soon after I play it. So let's hear it first. D minor, G major, okay, C. Now there's something that I want you to notice within this first part. Now that is that we're moving pretty smoothly between the chords. The chords seem to be creating a nice melodic line by something like this. Okay? Right? Now, that's the first thing that I want you to note. The second thing that I want you to note is the fact that I'm not playing all root shapes, which means I'm playing the D minor in the root shape, yes, but then I'm playing the second inversion for the G major, and then I'm playing the first inversion for the C major. So, now the other way of looking at it would be to say that, so why don't I play all these chords in their root shapes, and let's see what happens that way. Let's take it for example. Now I'll do that in two different ways. First I'll do it in group 4, and then I'll mix group 4 and group 3. So let's take the example in group 4. It's D minor here. I'll move to G major in the root shape, and then move to C major in the root shape. Right? So D minor. Play it rhythmically. Right, so there's evidently some problem out here in terms of the amount of movement that we're doing all across the fretboard just to be able to play the root shapes. Now, this seems to be a problem area with this approach. So what we'll do is we'll mix group 4 and group 3 and try to see if we can overcome that problem. Going to group 3 for G major, and then coming back to group 4 for C major. So this progression now sounds like this. Right, now what seems to be another problem to me is the smooth line that we had in the example that I had given before, which was using inversions, doesn't seem to exist in this. The line seems to be going something like this. Now, what do I mean by this melodic line? Let's clear the air around this. What I'm doing is I'm actually looking at all the highest notes of each of the chords and trying to see what kind of a melodic line it creates. So, in this example, D minor, the highest note is here, G major, the highest note is here, and C major, the highest note is here. So that seems to be suggesting a melodic line thus. Right? Now if you were to look at it, there's a jump of registers. Even when I'm playing the chords, you can feel it. Lower register, going high, coming back to a lower register. Now this kind of a jump, even in the melody line, which was, is something that when we talk of voice leading, is something that we try to avoid. So what is it in voice leading that we try to do? We try to create a melodic line when we are changing chords. And the melodic line generally is created by using minimal set of jumps, like semitones, tones, and no jumps at all. So even in the way which I had used before, which is using group 4 and playing this progression in root shapes all across group 4, we didn't have that kind of a free-flowing line. Rather, we had bigger jumps. Let's hear. Highest note in D minor, highest note in G major, highest note in C major, which seems to suggest something like this. Sorry. It's going from. So then what was the positive in the way we did it right at the outset, which was, now you can start to hear the melodic line very clearly because it doesn't have that many jumps. Highest voice, second chord. So we have as a melody line that is connecting all the three chords. And look at the jumps. So the jump from A to B is a tone, from B to C is a semitone. Right? So this is the concept of voice leading, which of course I've completed in just a gist, and we'll take it in depth later. But what I want to do is, now we already have the makings of a nice musical exercise which doesn't have to be very technical in nature. We'll use this chord progression and come back to point A. So how do you help express yourself all over the fretboard? We just take this one single progression and we try to move it all across the fretboard. By playing only that, of course we use different inversions, we use different groups, and we see how it builds. It'll definitely help building our memory map. So let's go and see how it sounds when I do it all across the fretboard. Now that we've tackled point A and B, what remains is to address point C, which of course is the whole point of this video, which is to make the most important thing that we will tackle in the part 2 of this video is when we switch keys, how is it that all this information of using chordal inversion comes into play to make the switch seem very melodic in nature. So let's head on and let's meet in part 2 of this video.